All right, parents, here's the question. Should you give your kids allowance or should you have allowance? I want to answer that question and give you 3 reasons behind that question. And I think the most surprising thing that is going to come from the answer and why to the answer has to do more with you than your kids. All right, guys. So there are 3 reasons why you should give allowance. So the first thing I want to say is absolutely, if you can afford to, you give your kids allowance. I'm going to tell you how I do it with my kids, and I'm going to give you the 3 reasons why this is an absolute yes. Okay, so here's the first one. Do you want to teach your kids how to spend? This is really what it's about, right? So you want to teach them how to save. You want to teach them how to invest, right? That seems obvious, but we don't really think about, we have to teach them actually how to spend too. Save, invest, and spend. It's 3 parts. So how do you teach your kids to spend when you're doing all the spending for them? Yeah, it doesn't happen and it doesn't work out because you're doing the spending. Or what you could do is you could give them money, also known as allowance, and you could tell them what they are going to do with the allowance. Like, if you want to buy something outside of the holidays and your birthday, you can use this money, right? You put rules around it. So I have rules around the allowance that I give my kids. One is there's always a 24-hour cooling off period. So they can buy something, but they have to wait 24 hours. So this is teaching them to manage their feelings and to just chill out when they see that thing they have to have in that moment on that Tuesday at that 5 p.m. and then they have to wait. So that is an absolute must that they wait 24 hours before they buy something. But here's what's great about this. When you give them this money, and the way I do it is I give them their year, I give them $1 for every year of their age. So let's say they were 10 years old. They would get $10. Now, they don't get to spend all 10. They only get to spend half of it, right? So they end up with $5 a week if they were, say, 10 years old. The other $5 gets split between saving and giving away. So I'm teaching them that they automatically save a portion of their money, 25%, and they give 25% away to other people, other charities, other 501c3 nonprofits. They give it away. And then they get to keep that $5. Now, this is interesting, right? Because I said save and keep. So the $5 is really deferred spending because they're taking the 5 to eventually spend it. And again, I'm sticking with the 10-year-old as an example. They get that $5 each week. It can go into an account. It can go into a spreadsheet. You can hand them $5 to see if they can actually manage paper money. It's very interesting to see how they do that. But the first thing is, if you want your kid to be good at spending, and this is a key skill that no one is taught. Everyone's taught you got to save money or invest, but no one's really taught how to spend. So give your kid that $5 a week in this $10-year-old example and watch them manage that money. They're going to make dumb mistakes. They're going to buy stupid things. But here's the thing. I'd rather have them make a $50 mistake at 10 years old or 12 years old or 8 years old than a $5,000 mistake at 19 or a $50,000 mistake at 30 or a $500,000 mistake at 40. It's all the same. So having them do something quote unquote dumb or stupid with their $50 is so much cheaper, especially because if they're 20 or 30, you may be getting a phone call if they did lose the 50,000. But $50 is a very inexpensive way to teach them how to spend money. So that's number one reason. Yes, give them allowance. Why? Because you're going to teach them how to spend money properly. Okay, number 2, they're going to have to figure out how to manage their feelings. Now, you can hold the container, right? But really spending, if you think about it, is a way of managing or feeding into your feelings. And there are only 4 feelings a human can have: mad, sad, glad, and afraid. Just 4. So if your son or daughter wants to buy something, they're going to be getting hit with dopamine and serotonin and who knows what other chemicals on the brain, and they're going to want to do it right away. But what you're really doing is saying, hey, first we have the 24-hour cooling off period, so they're going to have to manage those big feelings, right? And most of the time, this has been my experience, they don't even bring it up the next day. They forget about it. They go on to something else, something new, shiny. So it's amazing how many times they don't come back to you after 24 hours and say, okay, now I want to go get the Cabbage Patch Kid or whatever the thing is they have to have, or their life just will not continue. So you're literally teaching them about the 4 emotions: mad, sad, glad, afraid. And you can bring it up like, are you feeling mad or sad, glad, or afraid? Just ask them. They don't need to answer it. And this is, you want to take the long view on this. So the second thing is not only, number one is you're teaching them how to spend properly. Okay. Number 2 is you're teaching them about their feelings and emotions and how to recognize them, like, oh God, there they are. There that thing is. That's number 2. And then number 3 is you are learning to manage your own emotions. This is even bigger, right? Because think about, there's a dynamic between you and your son and daughter, right? And there may be a different dynamic, or you have 2 sons or 3 sons or 6 daughters, but every parent has a different dynamic with each kid. I know I do. I know that my son is going to be much better at spending his money than my daughter. Now, there's also an age difference between them. He is someone who collects all of his spending money. Notice I didn't say save, because he's already saving money. He collects all of his spending money, and then he goes out and buys pretty big things. Where his sister, she can't get rid of it fast enough, but she's starting to learn the downside of just buying all these $5 crappy things that don't really add value to her life. And I'd rather have her learn that at 10 than 30 or 50. But number 3 is you as the parent, right? And it might even be you and your spouse, right? Because what I've noticed is spouses have very different histories around money. But your daughter or your son comes to you because they want something. They want that thing that's outside of their, say, the holiday gift giving or their birthdays, right? So it's something that they have to have, whether it's a new outfit or a scooter or a skateboard, but it's something outside of it. It's a toy, okay? And so you then have to yourself manage your feelings, like you're not being a bad parent. You clearly said to them, I give you allowance. That's yours to manage. That's yours to collect all of your spending money and collect it up. And if you really want the skateboard, then I will fully support you in it. And I'm doing that through giving you the allowance. Now, let me just say this. This is like 3.5. There are times where they may want to buy something and it's above what they have. I'm totally fine with you as the parent, and make sure you're in the parenting shoes where you'll say to them, look, I'll cover this much of it if you cover that much of it. So you can meet them halfway. So you want to have some flexibility in your thinking. But what's nice is they're still doing the math. They're still looking up how much that remote control car costs. They're still doing all the research. I have my kids do all their own research. I don't do any of their research. I may help them or point them in a direction like, oh, have you thought about this keyword? Or have you thought about going over there? Or what have you done about this? But they're typing on the keyboard. They're looking up websites and numbers and figuring out what new and used is. They're doing the research. They're working their brain. And you're just kind of watching in the corner and giving suggestions if they offer them. So this is a great thing for you as a parent, because you're really you're doing what I call guardrailing. Like you're keeping them on the road, but they're having to do the work. Not you, but them. So if you want able-bodied and able-minded kids around money, then I suggest you give them an allowance and then put some rules and structure around it. So the 3 things were, yes, absolutely give your kids allowance, even if your spouse is against it. When I was married, my spouse was against this, but I knew absolutely giving the kids money, giving them allowance was very important. Oh, by the way, do not connect allowance to doing chores around the house. They are a family member, and because they're a family member, they put in work on the house, okay? And then you give them allowance. They are 2 separate things. My kids have their chores. That has nothing to do with allowance. If my kids get in trouble, they still get their allowance. So the allowance is not a punishment if they, get a bad grade and you pull the allowance. But you don't pull the allowance. you have to be a parent and start parenting separate from the allowance. The allowance is the allowance, and then you parent and you deal with if they screw up or mess up or do something wrong. That's something completely separate. Plus, you actually create this really loving bond, knowing they'll know that they are separate. Okay, so you don't want to use allowance as leverage. So the three are, first of all, absolutely give allowance. Why you give allowance? You teach them how to spend. No parent teaches their kids how to spend. Maybe you teach them how to save, and maybe you teach them how to invest, maybe. But spending actually it's one of the three things. It's so damn important. That's number one. Number two, you're actually teaching them to manage their feelings. Mad, sad, glad, afraid. 4 feelings. Let them bring them up. Ask them which one they're feeling. Have them wait the 24 hours. And number 3, you get to manage your feelings as a parent, and they get to experience you as stable parent. Oh, wow, my dad is super stable around money, around spending. Oh, wow, my mom, she has this very clear container around spending. That is for their benefit. Thanks, guys, so much. I appreciate you being in my world. If you like this, please hit the like button, ring the bell, do the things that YouTube loves, and also check out my free course, Clarity and Control. If you've ever wanted to have complete clarity over your money or get control back over your finances, your wealth, your future, to make sure you have enough or more than enough, I have an absolutely free course called Clarity and Control. Thanks for being in my world, and I will see you on the next video. Okay, bye.